it slows down a bit.
It does.
All right, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Geoffrey D. Calhoun, and of course, with me today is Kristy Leigh Lussier, staff writer at WeFixYourScript.com and also a producer. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, I'm so always happy to be here.
All right, so this episode, we are going to break down episode 7 of The Wheel of Time, The Dark Along the Ways. Are you ready for this logline?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Moiraine and her charges are diverted from their path by an unexpected encounter. This diversion, though, reveals many things. Moiraine's true goal, lands past, the fractures that have grown in the group, and the identity of the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, that's the episode.
All right, so I really enjoyed the way the teaser kicked off. It seems like they're getting in, trying to up the pace a bit, especially after coming off of 2 slow episodes.
Sure, yeah.
So this opening, we have a female warrior who is like super pregnant, and she's taking on like 5 to 10 dudes, Matrix style. So I mean, she's obviously a pretty tough character.
She's a bad ass. That's what it is. Let's
right.
Put that out there.
Yeah,
badass.
It was pretty great watching the cinematography there, the fight coordination, the character, and the actor who portrayed her was pretty phenomenal. So I really enjoyed. Seems like, all right, we're picking up the pace here. It's pretty great. And then we have the battlefield birth scene, which to me feels like straight out of Conan, because like born on the battlefield, like a literary, like that's like the warrior's warrior type of,
that's a good point, for sure.
So we get that happens, and then the reveal is that she's a redhead. So then we obviously, that links us to Rand, who is the only other redhead on this show.
For sure. Yes. Yeah.
All right. So from there, it slows down a bit.
It does. I mean, as we go into the ways, there's a little bit of a obviously kind of visual shift. So now we're getting into some really cool cinematography where I love that the cold open does take place where it does, on the slopes of Dragon Mount, on this mountain,
and it's all white.
Yeah, right.
And then we
switch to the ways.
Yeah,
and we flip to the ways, and then we're kind of in the blackness and the darkness of them kind of moving forward in the journey. So I thought that was really cool, because that's obviously kind of the center of the Wheel of Time too, is the dark and the light, and the black and the white of the Aes Sedai symbol, right?
I agree. I mean, visually it was represented well, and I did appreciate that. I'm really glad that you pointed that out. I loved coming into that white open, especially when she's covered in white, but then she has these weapons that are bloodied. So like, know, some stuff has gone down, right?
Yes.
So we're telling the story visually. And it's a good way to intro character. Now, when they walk through the ways and they close the door and Matt's gone. And so you enlightened me into the fact that was actually a story choice due to casting difficulties. So, so they moved on from there. They wrote him out, and they actually spent a surprising amount of exposition explaining that justification for that. I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's really that you bring up a good point, because I kind of knew, I mean, we knew months ahead of time that he wasn't coming back. And so I think for us watching the episode and then realizing, okay, how are they going to write out his character or explain that Matt does not go forward with them, which in the books he does. They all go to the Eye of the World together. So how are they going to make that shift, or how are they going to explain that? And I think there was a really neat way to do that, where they kind of alluded to that there was just still too much darkness in him. Yeah. That he was almost held back in that way, that he couldn't go into the ways, which is kind of what I got.
I thought that was good, but I don't think we needed to keep harping on it.
No. And I also feel like, and this is again, I love Matt's character in the show.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily one of my favorites in the books. He does grow on you, and he does have a great character arc and journey. Okay. I love what they did with him in the show, but then I feel like there's almost this bit of character assassination where then it becomes like Matt was selfish and he abandoned us. And I don't appreciate that. That I feel like they didn't need to do.
I agree with you on that. And because his arc was never completed, right?
No,
They
right.
separated him from the dagger last episode. He didn't have any choice in the matter. It was done for him. So yeah, it was all cut very, very short. And then to bring in the fact that, yeah, they're like, oh, he's evil, and then keep coming back to it.
Right. Yeah.
Can feel like character assassination. I think if they did a one and done, hey, he was too dark, we got to keep moving on, and then we just let the story get to it. But they kept coming back to it. So I could really understand your perspective there.
Yeah. And it's been interesting to kind of see the feedback and the view on that, because again, there have been a lot of viewers, fandom or not, book fandom or not, that have mentioned that same kind of perspective where they feel like it was too much to kind of knock on his character, but was it also to really demean the aspect that the actor has left, and so they're really trying to kind of diminish that role. But then they recast him.
Yeah, that's brutal, especially if you're recasting that role and it's supposed to come in. I mean, because it looks like they teased Matt walking through the gate, or somebody walking. I mean, it looked like Matt from a profile view, walking towards the kingdom that they were at. So I don't know. But I feel like they're setting it up. But that's really interesting if it is him, because then you're like, okay, how did he just like walk through this thing? How did he get the gate open? How did he walk through it? You have all of these questions, which questions are great in a show if they make sense.
Right. If they make sense. So there was just a lot of question behind it. And to me, it was an unnecessary drive to hit home that his character wasn't with them anymore. Yeah. It should definitely been a one and done. He was too dark. He couldn't do it. And then they're more worried about their friend. And we find out later what happened to him.
Exactly. I agree with that. I did enjoy the Dark Wind. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called, I think it's pronounced Mancha Shin.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be this dark, almost kind of like mirroring or at the same aspect as the darkness in Shadar Logoth.
Okay.
So the Ways is kind of basically just filled with it, essentially.
And what I love about characters is you have internal conflict, right? You have characters' need versus their want. You have their internal conflict, their fates, their flaws, and weaknesses. So what we got with this was actually a really nice moment of, hey, let's hear what they're really worried about. And so that got to bring that out. That internal conflict, we got to verbalize it, which is difficult to pull off. It can come off as cheesy if done wrong, but I thought this was done well.
Right.
But what I appreciated about it is that towards the end of the episode, it led towards external conflict.
Sure. Yes. Because revealing what they actually heard in the wind or in the Ways, plays off of their fears and their deep rooted insecurities and everything. And so that's why they're always saying, like, don't listen to what it's saying,
right?
Because it's trying to toy with you. It's trying to draw you into itself. Like,
and this only works if you're a teenager, because if you're 40 years old and some wind says something to me that I've been dealing with in therapy for the past 20 plus years.
Yeah. You don't need to remind me, right? Like, I got it.
I hear that voice when I wake up in the morning, dude. We're good. Let's go to the eye of the world. Get this show on the road.
This is the same shit, different day.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here sabotaging any relationships over stuff you're saying, buddy. So yeah, if you're in your teens, then definitely that voice is going to get to you.
Sure.
I feel like this Ogier character should be more prominent than he is, but as of now, I'm just getting that he's a vehicle for exposition.
Yeah. And same. Yes, absolutely. So you kind of think to yourself, well, why is he there? What's the significance about him? Now, I will allude and spoil that in the books, he is the one that opens the Waygate. He has to open the Waygate. Because of his history and his background. And then he kind of gets them through the Ways. He's the only one that can really read the tablets and the Ways and get them through the path.
Yeah.
They chose to go in a different direction where Moiraine opens the Waygate in the show, which feels, again, to me, more of a diminishing aspects of this character, who is very enriching in the books. He is very significant and helps them move along.
Yeah, I could understand that. And then coming from a production perspective, I would say it's because it's Rosamund Pike. You've got a named character. You're going to give her that ability.
Sure.
But
right.
if you make that decision, then yeah, the sacrifice there is that you have this other guy who's like sole goal is to do this thing, and you're like,
and he's not doing it.
You're not going to do
the point, right?
Then why is he in the show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just some interesting, unique kind of choices in terms of developing the story that, bring back to this significance of, or what we were talking about in the last episode.
Yeah.
Whose central story is it, or whose character story are we telling?
Yeah.
And then who are those, supporting roles that are helping move that story along? And just to throw in a character who's really beloved in the books because we want to see him on screen, but then don't give him the development to shine and help contribute to the movement of the story.
Yeah.
What's the point of having him there then?
I agree. I mean, I think of Game of Thrones. I think of the Faceless Men, right? Those are really cool characters, and you bring them into the show, and they have a particular set of skills, and they use those skills, and it's woven into the plot line and central characters plots as well, and so it works. Now, if you had a character like that and you just took away what made them special, it's a big issue. So
yes, yeah, I'm
hoping that this character has some kind of a payoff in the next episode. I don't know. We'll be watching it after this show, and I'm dragging my wife through the episodes now. So,
she watching them. What does she think?
Well,
that's another episode. Is that
she's on her phone? I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, that's it. If we were talking about The Expanse, she'd be like, yeah, I love this, but the Wheel of Time, it is what it is. So
yeah.
Where was I going?
Well, then we get to, so after the ways we get to Aldara.
Yeah.
Right.
So we get there, we get some more background on Lan, and some shipping between him and Nynaeve, which I thought was it was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, they have a love arc in the books. It takes a little longer to develop, and they go through a lot more for them to finally come to terms with their relationship and their love for each other. But it was to me pushing that faster in season 1, which I feel like they could have probably stretched out longer.
Yeah,
was fan service. It really was fan service.
The
fans were just
well,
they're anxious to see them together.
We've already established that fans are thirsty on this show.
Yes,
but Nynaeve is like crazy powerful. Like, she's the most powerful channeler we've seen on the show so far, and she doesn't even know how to channel. That's the part that keeps blowing my mind.
Right. And again, this goes back to like establishing laws of magic system and foundations of magic system, and then being able to. So it's significant then when we see somebody like her who has that ability and is so strong, and she's not even trained yet. So she knows how to channel now, or she understands that her channeling comes from moments of emotional burst or anger, right?
Yeah.
But when you're trained to be able to harness that amount of power, that's huge and that's significant.
Are you pulling an Incredible Hulk on me, and her secret is that she's always angry?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't really gotten that from the first episode on,
I'm always angry.
Then
she channels white energy.
Poor storytelling on their aspect. She's really well known in the books for always being kind of very, shoots from the hip, gets very angry, has these kind of little bursts. She tugs her braid consistently in the books, which is like this big visual thing that the fans love. So that's why she has this big braid.
She's been doing it on the show too. Now, the thing that I find just fascinating is that she has this like "you shall not pass" moment of Gandalf, right? So you've got this dark wind coming at her, and she's just like, no, and then she stops it all. And I'm thinking, like,
but does she?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, visually, nothing was getting through.
Okay.
I don't know. Hey, I'm just watching the show.
I mean, I was wondering, like, because we haven't gotten to the end of this episode yet, but at the end of the episode, it actually reveals that moment a little bit more. But I don't know if you caught it.
I must have missed it. So fill me in. At the end of this episode, the big reveal is that Rand is the Dragon Reborn.
Dragon Reborn. Yes.
I almost said the last dragon. I was like, that's Bruce Leroy. That's a different movie. He's got glowing hands. So fights show enough, but that's not where we're at. He's the Dragon Reborn, which was cool. I mean, obviously they did some camera tricks and they purposely withheld, like when he busts through the door, when he threw the Trolloc across the room, they always showed it from his back so that we couldn't see it, which is fine. You know, they had been building up to that moment and he couldn't hit the target, and then he's just nailing it. So we have the big reveal there. All right, that's cool. He's the last dragon. Boom. What did I miss?
What did you miss? Well, what you missed is that he was the one that channeled in the ways and did that. Like that, he was the one that blocked that attack from the Trollocs. Right,
but he didn't stop the Dark One though, right?
No. Oh, yeah. I mean, you mean the big one, the big. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that was definitely Nynaeve.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
They think it looks like Iguane does it or somebody else does it, and Egwene's like, "Oh my god, I didn't mean to channel," but it was actually Rand.
Yeah, it was Rand. Okay.
Channeling. Yeah.
I mean, I'm down with it. I guess I want to see what happens in the next episode. I mean, I feel like there was a lot of buildup, right? But it's like a reveal of a few seconds, and it's okay, that's fine. End of the episode. We're ready to go. I'm just glad that pacing wise, this episode picked it up a bit. It's still struggled though with keeping that momentum.
Yeah, I do feel like there were a lot of sequences and scenes that, again, kind of slowed down a little bit of that pacing, and it felt more like we were kind of just doing here's more of an information dump, and setting up for A, B, and C, and I think probably my least favorite aspect, and something that I still kind of go, that was an interesting choice, was to introduce this love triangle arc between Perrin and Iguane and Rand.
Yeah, that was kind of out of the blue. That there was no there was no setup anywhere.
Very, very. And it's really interesting because there's no earning of that, or there's no like, oh, we kind of saw those seeds planting and then here's where we get to it. And
right.
I mean, these are kids that grew up with each other, so they're going to know each other inside and out and have always had a close relationship like brothers and sisters anyway.
Yeah.
Why they felt like they needed to take in an extra step where it was like this love thing with Perrin and Iguane was just, I don't feel like it does anything in terms of moving the story more, building more tension or conflict, or even developing each one of their characters further. Honestly.
No, I agree, and that could have been a way to go. The only thing I could surmise is perhaps they were trying to fill the lack of arc for Matt. So they created this.
They created that. I mean,
I don't know. I'm guessing here, but I would have liked to have seen more development from the other characters. Absolutely. Even Moiraine. I mean, she didn't get much plot this episode. She was heavy last episode, but you could have cut something like that and brought in more from her aspect.
Right.
Instead of just having her kind of chill out with the bartender for a hot sec. So
yes. Oh, so we do meet that character in this episode as well, Min.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I thought it was neat that it was a bartender. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So again, significant character in the series, ends up being really prevalent as we move forward in the story, particularly for Rand. So it was really cool to kind of introduce her character. Now she's supposed to be younger in the books as well. They aged her up again. But I thought it worked and I really liked it.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. I thought the actor did a fine job, and as being as disinterested as possible about giving people information about their total doom. I thought, that's a good way.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like, is it really a blessing or a curse that she kind of has this seeing gift, which is something that she actually, her kind of journey goes through that internal struggle.
Yeah.
With that, is this really good or bad that I can do this and I know these things ahead of time?
It's difficult for a show like this that has so much plot and so much background and history going on. I can see how it's hard to write it where you're not either talking about exposition or about their feelings. I mean, because it's hard. They have so much going on. So it's better than it was. It's definitely improving, but there are still moments where like, okay, we have to get all of this information out there for the audience.
Right. And we're on episode 7. We know episode 8 is like obviously the season finale. I think that in the grand scheme of the templates and structure, by episode 7, we should not still be in this place where we're dumping so much kind of exposition. Right?
So episode 7 structurally is the resurrection and the return. So midpoint, you have the death and rebirth. And the difference between that structurally with the resurrection and the return is that the midpoint, death and rebirth is thrust upon the central character or the character's arc. So they don't have a choice in the matter. It happens to them. The resurrection and return, they choose.
Sure.
They choose to give up whatever aspect of their life and come back changed. And so that's what Matt has done. He has the revelation that he is the Dragon Reborn. They can't move forward.
Or are you talking about Rand?
Yeah.
Rand, yeah.
Yeah, Rand has a revelation that he's the Dragon Reborn. He chooses to go on with Moiraine and to leave the group behind so that they live. So that is his resurrection and return moment. So I mean, structurally, we're there. What I was hoping for was to have that big moment in the Eye of the World split between 2 episodes. I would have loved to have seen a big moment like that where you're coming into it and then you have that moment instead of, again, taking a detour, which we did, taking a detour and then having this kind of side quest and slowing it down where everybody is kind of going through their feelings.
Right. Yeah, because when we do get to the next episode, there's some really cool visual opportunities in the actual Eye of the World with Rand coming to face what he does. And I think expanding on that and making that so big would have been a priority. Definitely would have been.
Let me give you my big concern for the next episode, because we haven't got there yet. I don't know who the hell the antagonist is. That really worries me. We haven't gotten to the episode yet, so I don't want to speculate. But if I'm watching Lord of the Rings, I know who Sauron is. You know,
you've known from episode 1.
I saw him fighting armies. I saw the dude was a giant. Right. He's prevalent in the Eye. He has the ring. We hear his voice here and there. All I've seen from this dude is like brief glimpses of some dude with a face on fire here and there.
Right.
But I don't know who the villain is. So that makes me concerned. As a viewer, I'm not invested.
I mean, what are the stakes? What are the consequences? What is the ultimate, like, if this doesn't happen for this central character, or for now that we know it's Rand, right? And he's the Dragon Reborn. Okay, so now we know he's the Dragon Reborn. If he doesn't face the Dark One, or if he doesn't defeat the Dark One, what happens? If he doesn't get to the Dark One in time, what happens? What are those stakes?
Well, they tell you what happens. They talk about it. And we've heard over and over and over what happens is that the Dragon Reborn is either killed and we all die, or he is turned to the dark side. Sorry, guys, Star Wars reference. And then, ends up fighting for the guy. So, I mean, we know those are the stakes, but I don't know what he's fighting.
What he's fighting and where it's at.
I'm not too worried about it. Like we've seen the Trollocs, and the Trollocs are scary, but they're like pawns. We've seen the Fade, but sparsely. So we haven't really had that real scary moment with the Fade. We had one where the Bard was there and he took care of it. But I mean, I want to see like a Fade in there coming after one of our main characters, fighting for his life, right? But we don't really get that. They just get saved by side characters.
Yes.
Do you feel where I'm going?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to see more of it. I want to see how the Dark One and his army, which is obviously these Trollocs and everything that falls between and below that, invading aspects of the world. They touch on it very briefly in moments of dialogue. I think episode 6, it's mentioned briefly, or 5.
Yeah,
where
some kingdom fell. Yeah.
Some kingdom is under attack, and then the ports are getting overrun by this, and then now they're seeing Trollocs in these areas where Trollocs shouldn't be.
If we say it and we don't see it, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
You need to know that. For the people out there listening who are writers, who are interested in writers, why Kristy and I have an issue with too much exposition. Like some exposition, like you just can't get around it. We understand.
Right.
And then the trick is like cleverly hide that dialogue through action or bring in a visual if you can, but make it interesting, right? Yes. But if a character is saying it and we don't see it, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
And you need to know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to see how the Dark One is affecting the world. I want to see more of that. Why is it significant now that the Dark One is starting to infiltrate the world?
And when do we see that?
Right.
At the end of episode 7, or sorry. Yeah. Is this 7?
It's 7. Yeah.
At the end of episode 7, we see the Blight. We see it.
Yeah.
For the first time, unless I've missed it over 7 episodes, but there it is. Hey, this is the Blight. This is what I mean. I want to see that episodes ago. We saw the Dark City. We saw the evil in there. That was great. I like that it brought that in. It showed some stakes there, but it was just that city. I want to see the Blight. I want to see how it's taking on this world and messing up this realm. So I think, there was opportunity where we could have made it even more global.
Sure, for sure. Because at the end of the day, again, that adds to the significance of, we must find the Dragon Reborn. We must make sure he's ready. And, that, so then we understand, okay, now, like, we don't have time. We don't have time anymore. There's a sense of urgency for us to move this forward. Right.
I'm totally picking up what you're putting down. Some of this could have been production reasons. I mean, this show is expensive, so, I mean, that could be what it was, but I think making it more global, which is what they were trying to do with the Dark City. But again, that felt very like a pocket episode. Yes. And I wanted to see, more of it everywhere, because everywhere else they go, everything is fine.
Everything's fine. Yeah.
People are living life as normal.
I mean, even Valdara, that is the last holdout and the last bridge, or the last kind of gap. It's called Tarlin's Gap. Yeah. Before you hit the Blight, before you hit that realm. And it's, while they've guarded it for thousands of years and nothing's ever really been able to infiltrate it, it's only until they arrive, and then we're going to move into this aspect that, could this be detrimental to where this little gap is? But these, they're always on edge. They've known that they've had to guard that spot for thousands of years. Like, that's the whole point of it.
I mean, I'll pitch you this, because I'm sure somebody's listening and they were like, oh, well, he's hating on this episode. I'm not hating on the episode or the show. I just feel like there's opportunity.
Yes.
And I'll pitch you this. So Game of Thrones, you have the rest of Westeros living their best life, killing each other, trying to get that power, right? And then you have Jon Snow fighting the undead, fighting the Night King, right? And through Jon Snow's perspective, we are learning the stakes, right? And then so when you go back to Westeros, you're like, look at these fools killing each other over nothing, because
they don't know. They have no idea.
They got an undead army coming, right? So there was opportunity there where we could have built in. Look, I haven't read the books, so I could be totally wrong on this, Kristy, and feel free to correct me.
You're on the right path.
But there could have been something that they could have brought in as a C plot or a D plot regularly throughout every episode to help build up that darkness and gloom of the world,
right?
To build those stakes.
Yes.
That's my 2 cents.
Yep. No, I 100% agree, on the same page.
All right. Well, this episode is brought to you by the Script Summit Screenplay Contest, where you can get a chance to win $1,000 cash, or even get signed by a Hollywood talent manager. We had 2 get signed last year, so you can go to scriptsummit.com for that. We have actually 2 episodes left to go. We are going to do the finale after this. And then a week after that, we are going to do like a season 1 recap, where we're going to kind of take a holistic look at season 1 and see what we can kind of come up with.